Minamata is known across Japan, but it's a distinction the city would prefer to do without. About half a century ago, many of its citizens were struck by what has come to be called Minamata Disease. Once the cause was known, sludge containing the poisonous substance was buried and land was reclaimed into a park, this park. In 1997, the area was declared safe, but the legacy of the disease is never far from sight. Worldwide experts on mercury poisoning gathered in Minamata this week. On Focus, the story of the disease that brought them here. Minamata disease makes itself known in the hands and feet. The mouth also becomes numb. Seeing and hearing get worse. Many died soon after falling ill. Those that survived lived lives of pain and suffering. Wastewater with methyl mercury was the cause. It washed into Minamata Bay, the result of acid aldehyde production by Chiso Corporation. Less than a pinch of methyl mercury is enough to kill. The substance gets into the food chain through fish. If humans eat those fish, the mercury destroys their brain cells and brings on the symptoms. But people can get the disease without eating fish. Indeed, without eating at all. The chemical can spread through a pregnant mother to the brain of her fetus. Once destroyed, those cells never revive. Shinobu Sakamoto was born with the disease, a congenital case. But she refuses to be daunted and tries to think positive.
病気になっとったらあったけど病気に今いろんなことやできたなと思うけど
病気になったけれども今でもいろんなことができると思ってる。
She finds solace and stimulation in weaving. She hopes that someday she'll find a community of her own. Joining us today is Dr. Masazumi Harada, who's been studying Minamata disease for more than 40 years. Thank you very much for joining us today. Now, how many patients have been identified so far?
Yes, so far about 2,300 people have been officially recognized as Minamata disease patients. But I think there may be more. About 20,000 people are complaining of some kind of symptoms. The mercury pollution has spread over the entire Shiranoishi in Kumamoto, not just Minamata Bay only. So I think about 200,000 people maybe have been affected.
Why has the pollution spread?
Because it took many years before the cause of the disease was determined and anything was done to stop it. The disease was officially reported in 1956 and the cause was determined in 1959. But even after that, the government and the company did nothing to stop industrial discharges or ban fishing in polluted area. Because of that, another case of mercury pollution later developed in Niigata.
In 1968, the central government recognized the disease as caused by environmental pollution. That was 12 years after the first patient was identified. Later, a system was established to decide whether patients would be recognized as actual victims. If designated, they became eligible for compensation and payment of medical costs. But receiving the designation is not so easy. Many patients had to go through long court battles. 17,000 people applied, but less than 3,000 have been officially recognized. And even for them, the process sometimes took as long as 20 years. Many became old as they waited.
私はやっぱり政治家として40年間もこういう問題の解決を見出していなかったということについては共通して責任を感じるべきではないかと。
In 1995, they were offered an out-of-court settlement. The plaintiffs would drop their suits alleging government responsibility. In return, they would receive lump sum payments but not designation as patients of the disease. About 10,000 people took the offer. Some who rejected it continue to fight in court. The International Conference on Mercury as a Global Pollutant has been held 5 times, but it's the first time for the experts to meet in Minamata. They're discussing what happened here and how to prevent any future Minamatas. The Japanese government asked to host the conference to convey what Minamata has experienced and how it has recovered.
We have already lots of places that are contaminated, and we are looking for solutions, but it's a long way for us. It's still a long way.
In Japanese studies during the 1960s, the levels of methylmercury in hair of seriously ill patients exceeded 50 parts per million. That set a kind of guideline around the world. Unless someone has this amount, he is not thought of as having the disease. But it's also known that far less mercury can cause retardation in fetuses. Compared with Japan's 50 parts per million, American standards are stricter.
The number that is used is anything above 10 parts per million mercury in maternal hair. We think that because people vary one to another, that we shouldn't set a standard at 10, but the standard should be tenfold lower. And so we think that a level of 1 part per million mercury in hair is a level that's safe.
During the conference, some researchers read papers casting doubt on Japan's diagnostic guidelines. Under those standards, patients must have sensory disorders plus either motor disorders or narrowing of vision. Professor Shigeo Ekino of Kumamoto University said that people with sensory disorders alone should be diagnosed as having the sickness. He presented data showing methylmercury causes sensory disorders.
The brain dysfunction is very difficult to check, and the former method is just check the subjective phenomenon, but our method is clarifies the objective symptom.
According to Professor Ekino, methylmercury causes small nerve cells of the cerebral cortex to fall off. He said that causes sensory disturbances all over the body. Others are following his approach, using objective data to diagnose, not just the subjective judgment of any particular doctor.
Now, Dr. Harada, you've been surveying mercury poisoning around the world. What have you found?
Yes, mercury poisoning is not rare. It is found in many parts of the world. So Minamata disease has not come to an end. For example, in China, people are suffering from mercury poisoning, like in Minamata, through making of acetaldehyde. In Brazil case, people working in small-scale gold mines are directly exposed to mercury. This mercury disposed of from gold mines pollute the environment. And the fish contaminated by mercury is eaten by local fishermen. As a result, these fishermen's mercury content in hair become very high. Therefore, Amazon area is becoming very dangerous.
International Conference on Mercury Poisoning has been held in Minamata this week, and many experts from around the world have come to participate in it. What can the world learn from Minamata?
Yes, in Japan, many very severe cases of Minamata patients were found. But what is happening in the world is much lighter cases of mercury poisoning. So I don't think experience of Minamata will directly assist the case of the world. What people are in need right now are information on chronic case, low-level case, long-term effects, and effects of fetus. Unfortunately, the data that Japan has is not enough to meet these needs. However, I hope that this conference will be a good opportunity for the world to see Minamata, and I hope there will be a re-examination on the research of Minamata in Japan.
Minamata cannot change its history, but the city hopes that by facing its problems directly, it can reclaim its future.